spoke to me, and I hope it spoke to you too. The person watching this, listening to this, and you've been beating yourself up, right? Because a lot of us,
Mhm.
we do that, Kevin. We beat ourselves up. I didn't get this done. And the crazy thing, now that you said this, the realization is this: I've never gotten better by beating myself up.
Mm.
It's just worn me down, right? It's just worn me down. And I appreciate you sharing that. If you had a mic in your hand, I would tell you just drop it. Like that was a mic drop right there. Um, so content creation, right? And you really sharing stories. And I love the way you share it because um it's not hard, it's not white knuckled, it's stories, but there's also a level of like consistency. I love that consistency. But it opened doors for you, right? This is open doors for you speaking in the book. I want to get into some of them, but I do want to ask you this question. What's probably the coolest opportunity that you got as a result of this? Coolest, you could whatever, however you want to go with that. What's the coolest thing?
Oh man, uh, coolest opportunity. I'll tell you the one that happened to me just a few weeks ago, actually. So I came back from Sri Lanka. That's my motherland, the country I was born, like a week ago. So I went there in June because not only to see my family, but my brother-in-law and myself. We just started a tour company called Cross Culture Tours, and essentially it's a 10-day tour of the island where people get to experience what Sri Lanka has to offer, the best of what the island has to offer. However, not only that portion of the fees towards the ticket goes into funding for a school. Uh, so every time we do a tour, we also want to focus on a humanitarian project. And so this year, the project was to renovate a school that's been dilapidated for the last 50, 60 years. Extremely bad conditions. And so we were able to raise money, about 1 million+ rupees to do the project, which is a lot of money. That's a little more than like $5,000 here, which doesn't seem like a lot of money here, but it is still a lot of money. But for them in Sri Lanka, it goes so far. Anyhow, one of the coolest things that happened is I was contacted by the Minister of Plantation Work, the tea plantation community, and the Minister of Water, who was the same person of Sri Lanka, and I was invited to have a meal with him and our tour. So yeah, there we were. This happened like 2 weeks ago, where we were just seated and just talking about geopolitics. So to give you an idea, that person would be kind of like say the Minister of Transport,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
here
Hmm.
in the country, who's Pete Buttigieg or whoever that person is for the entire country. So that's kind of the scale that we're talking about in terms of influence in this person. And so we were sitting in and having food with a politician. And then last year I got to sit with the biggest tea exporter of Sri Lanka to the world, and so I was able to have conversations with that person. So yeah, I think that was probably one of the coolest experiences, I would say, just sitting down with them, and yeah, and then to build a school now,
Yeah.
which is going to outlive all of us, and that was really really cool. So there's a few more, but that was something
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Kevin, I'll tell you something that I want to applaud you for. You've kept your heart for home. As
Mm,
someone who I did not grow up here in the US, I grew up in Trinidad,
mm.
hence the roti before the recording, right?
Yeah.
But you kept your heart for home, and I applaud that because sometimes we can forget home after we, especially move over here, establish roots here, get some level of success. But I want to applaud you for keeping your heart for home and
Thank you.
pouring back in. All right, so the book. We don't have a lot of time, but I want you to tell someone what this, why they should get this book, and what this book, the message of this book is.
Yeah, so the book is called The Way of Chai: Recipes for a Meaningful Life. And essentially, the way that I've structured the book is kind of like a journey. Like you're starting the journey in Sri Lanka, in the tea plantations, and then you end the journey with me sharing the cup of tea with you. So every single chapter is a certain aspect of the tea making process. starting from the leaf, or the terroir, which is like the land, the biochemical processes, the biochemical conditions, the water, the sun, all that stuff that causes the tea. So that's the first chapter. The last chapter is the grounds, talking about what are you going to do with the tea leaves once it's done. So every chapter has a couple of different aspects. It starts off with a deep dive into that specific aspect of the tea making process. Then it transitions into what that specific aspect of the tea making process can teach you about how to live a meaningful life in a post-pandemic age.